Religion can be a powerful force for good in the world. It can bring people peace and comfort and inspire them to help others and be compassionate. But religion can also be used to control others, and there's one I've been afraid to publicly criticize because of the hysterical backlash from its true believers and those who unquestioningly defend its inherent violence. But I can't stay silent any longer because this religion is running rampant and its followers are only growing more aggressive and more emboldened, glorifying violence as righteous and victimizing others as virtuous. Like many organized religions, it has different sects and levels of orthodoxy. Though the degrees of extremism may vary, its adherents' proud obedience to the god of authority remains the same. They believe their god, government, has rights they do not, the right to control others through violence. Its agents are not subject to basic human morality. Unlike us, they can steal, they can kill, and they can brutalize you for refusing to believe in this double standard and accept that it's for your own good. Like other religions, faithful practitioners of statism, where the state reigns supreme, bow to sacred texts, exalted symbols, and deified origin stories, and they engage in cyclical rituals to prove their faith and secure the riches they think their government god guarantees, even when their religious leaders fail to deliver on those promises. Like any effective religion, its authorities drive its tenets into children's heads from a young age, forcing them into schools where the suppressive, violent, control-based ideology is presented as civilization and freedom and the only possible reality, one that becomes conflated with their most basic human identity and where memorization and regurgitation, compliance and conformity are valued above all else. This brainwashing is so effective and the cultish fixation on the power of authority so great that true believers react frenzied and angrily if you question their perceived prophets or their interpretation of their religion, or government forbid the legitimacy of their god altogether. But while there may be different interpretations of authority worship, followers' faith in it is unshakable, and they believe not only that they must force it on the infidels who don't share their specific ideology, but also that they are free because their god allows them to do so. They believe it's moral to threaten others into the sacrament of submission. As long as they perform the rituals, pray to the right religious leaders, and don't break their rules, they will be saved. No matter how many times this proves to be a lie, and no matter how cruel their god reveals itself to be, they continue to believe. It is a repressive religion, criminalizing nonviolent, victimless behavior while approving of other destructive vices, simply because their holy texts, laws, written by mortals but kissed by pseudo-sacred authority and enforced at the barrel of a gun, say so. Followers believe the government has the right to control a wide range of behavior and that as faithful practitioners, they can use this status god and their religious masters to force their views on others who don't consent. And even when adherents don't agree with certain laws, they nevertheless submit because they faithfully bow to the god of authority. These rules inevitably require violence to enforce, and those who refuse to comply, even if they aren't hurting anyone, ultimately come face to face with the weapons of the enforcement class for questioning its superiority. If they don't get the barrel of a gun jammed in their face, the fact remains that the state asserts its right to use violence if it wants, while its true believers deny this violence even exists, calling it consent of the governed or majority rule or the social contract. When every representative they elect and every law that's passed hold their power because of an enforcement class that will aggress against others to ensure obedience. Those who wield the weapons and impose the violence for the institution are deemed heroes and martyrs. They receive special status and privilege and respect for fighting the sinners, the infidels, the non-believers. The effectiveness of this indoctrination leads otherwise good people to kill on its behalf for con man profits and others to rationalize it and advocate it, even if they don't commit it themselves. This fetish for authority and obedience to their god has led its soldiers to die for the state, to kill more human beings than any other religion in the history of the planet, and the deaths keep mounting while people excuse it in blind faith. Now, depending on your political or religious beliefs, you might have assumed I was going to be talking about Christianity or Islam or Judaism or some other collectivist ideology. And while you can call out the violence and suffering those religions have contributed to, past and present, the religion of statism has far more followers than any other, and it sows more subservience and destruction than any other belief system. The divine right of kings, wars for territory and resources, colonization, communism, fascism, monarchy, democracy. Some are mixed with other religions, others the only religion is the state. But the government always uses violence, which people defend because they've been programmed to accept that it's somehow moral when the state does it. Still believe your statist religion is peaceful? Voluntary? A result of the consent of the governed and the social contract? What happens if I don't consent or submit, whether to democracy, communism, democratic socialism, or any other form of government? What if I non-violently choose to opt out, not pay my taxes, and refuse this arbitrary authority? I will be flagged, fined, and brutalized until I obey. Believe people are bad and stupid and can't be trusted to live without government? Then why give some of them violent authority to control you and let bad and stupid people elect them? Still convinced we are the government? If that's the case, did you codify slavery? Did you throw innocent people into internment camps simply because of their heritage? Did you nuke hundreds of thousands of innocent people? Did you spray poison onto innocent civilians in Vietnam? Did you drive taxpayers into trillions of dollars of debt? Do you spy on people who haven't done anything wrong? Do you steal the property of nonviolent people who haven't even been charged with a crime? Do you impose exorbitant fees and fines on individuals for trying to make a living? Do you throw them in cages for doing things you don't like? Do you separate children from their parents? Do you kill civilians abroad? Would you? I'm now speaking out against the brutal religion of statism because I was once a true believer. I thought it was a religion of peace and civilization, and I know how hard it can be to question this. But too much death and destruction have been caused by individuals acting on behalf of the God of authority or because of policies justified by that God. And too many people accept it and cheer it, claiming the enforcers are just doing their jobs because the religion of statism does not encourage its adherents to question it. Instead, it takes well-intentioned, good people and manipulates them into believing they're helping others and they're free, putting lipstick on the pig of the state's inherent violence and obliterating individual sovereignty and independent thought. If you don't think statism is a religion, check in with your emotions. Are you triggered right now? I've danced around this subject for years for this exact reason, because I know people will rage at me and call me crazy for not wanting to be ruled over. But the stakes are too high to stay silent. There's too much oppression to call statism anything but what it is: a fanatic, extremist ideology of utopian pipe dreams and dire real-world consequences. What's your solution, you might ask? Well, I'm not so arrogant to think I have them all, but I will link to a video I put together exclusively on steps you can take in your personal life to challenge the system. But above everything, the first and most important step towards stopping the evils of this fanatic religion is snapping people out of their blind submission to it.